Previously on a love that lingered, Grace clung to Arthur's letters as lifelines, though each one carried more shadows than the last. Her secret, the child she carried, remained hidden, guarded fiercely by her, Oliver, and Lady Caldwell. But Arthur's final message was written in haste, warning of an impending battle. This is episode 28, The Silence Between Letters. The days stretched long, dragging like heavy chains across the manor halls, where once the steady rhythm of letters had provided Grace with fragile hope. Now there was only silence. Each morning she woke with the same sharp ache in her chest, her eyes darting toward the desk where the stack of Arthur's words lay waiting. But no new letter came. At first, she told herself the post had been delayed, bad weather on the roads, or a courier waylaid by the conflict's unrest. She smiled through her worry, even managed to laugh faintly with Oliver when he teased her about pacing by the window. But as the days turned into weeks, her strength thinned like paper worn by too many folds. Grace often sat in the window seat of her chamber, hands cradling her growing belly as she whispered Arthur's name into the silence. The child kicked faintly now, a small flutter beneath her skin that made her heart seize with both joy and despair. How cruel, she thought, that Arthur might never feel it, that he might never know the life he had sown within her. Lady Caldwell tried to distract her with embroidery, with long walks through the garden when the weather allowed, but Grace could not shake the constant sense of waiting. The manor itself seemed to echo with it. The staff moved quietly, as though afraid to disturb the fragile hope clinging to its mistress. Then one morning, the familiar sound of hooves clattered in the lane, and Grace's heart leapt. She rushed to the front hall, Oliver at her heels, as the postman approached with a leather satchel under his arm. He tipped his cap respectfully, offering her a sealed envelope. It was not Arthur's hand on the address. The seal was military. For a moment, Grace stood frozen in the doorway, her breath locked in her chest. The panic that unfurled in her heart was like a bottomless pit, yawning wide and merciless. With trembling fingers, she broke the seal. The words on the page swam before her eyes. To Lady Grace Caldwell, we regret to inform you that Captain Arthur Caldwell has been declared missing in action as of the 12th day of February. His unit engaged in a confrontation near the border. While casualties have been confirmed, Captain Caldwell's body has not been recovered. After 2 weeks without report, he is hereby listed as MIA. Our forces continue the search. You will be notified immediately if further information arises. With respect, Colonel James Worthing. The letter slipped from Grace's hands, fluttering to the polished floor like an autumn leaf. She could not breathe. The edges of the hall blurred, her ears ringing as Oliver bent swiftly to catch her. "Grace!" His voice cracked, panic raw in it. "My lady, breathe!" But she could not. The words, missing in action, carved themselves into her chest, cutting deep and merciless. Her knees gave way, and Oliver scooped her into his arms, carrying her to the study while Lady Caldwell came rushing in. Grace clutched at Oliver's coat, sobbing with a desperation that frightened even herself. "No, no, no, it's not true. He's alive. He has to be alive. He promised me." Ethel, pale as ivory, took the letter in trembling hands and read it silently. Her lips pressed together, her composure taut. Though her eyes shimmered with unshed tears, she sat beside Grace, reaching for her hand. "My dear, we do not know the end yet. Missing is not death. Do you hear me? It is not death. Grace shook her head violently, tears streaking down her cheeks. But what if? What if? Oliver interrupted, kneeling before her, his hands on her arms as if to anchor her. His voice, usually so steady, trembled with suppressed fury. Then we fight for hope until we know otherwise. Don't you dare bury him yet, my lady, don't you dare. The words cut through her despair like a lifeline, though they did not ease the agony. For hours she wept, curled against Oliver's shoulder, while Lady Caldwell remained quiet at her side, her grief contained but no less palpable. That night Grace wandered to the bed she had once shared with Arthur. She lay down, the sheets cold against her skin, and curled onto her side. Her hands stroked the swell of her belly, as though by touching it she could tether herself to Arthur's spirit. He'll come back, she whispered into the darkness, her voice hoarse. He'll come back. He has to. But the silence of the room gave her no answer. Sleep came only in fragments, torn by dreams that bled between memory and nightmare. She dreamed of Arthur in his uniform, smiling as he had when he left her at the manor steps, his kiss warm against her lips. Then the scene shifted, smoke curling through the air, Arthur's figure swallowed by fog, his hand reaching for her but never finding her. She ran toward him, calling his name, but each step carried her farther away, the distance growing endless. She woke with a gasp, her pillow damp with tears, her body trembling. The child stirred within her, a soft fluttering as though sensing her distress. Grace placed her hand over the movement, clinging to it with desperate affection. "You're all I have left of him," she whispered into the darkness, "and I will not let go. For both our sakes, I will believe." The days that followed were heavy with waiting. Grace moved through the manor like a ghost, refusing meals, staring endlessly from windows as though Arthur might appear on the horizon. Oliver tried everything to keep her occupied, tasks in the study, gentle conversations, but her heart was elsewhere, fixed on the unyielding silence from the front. One evening, he found her sitting at the desk, Arthur's letters spread before her like sacred relics. She traced the ink of his words with her fingertips, whispering them aloud in a broken voice. Oliver leaned against the doorway, his jaw tight, his eyes glimmering with pain he could not voice. "My lady," he said softly, "you cannot lose yourself like this. He would not want it." Her gaze flicked up to him, fierce, despite her tears. "And what would you have me do, Oliver? Pretend as if half my soul isn't missing?" Oliver's chest heaved. "I would have you remember that he is not gone. Not yet. And until you know otherwise, you must hold him in hope, not despair." Her hand pressed to her belly again, her expression breaking into fragile resolve. "Then that is what I will do. For him, for this child, I will hold on." That night, Grace lay again in the great bed she had shared with Arthur. She drew the covers around her and cradled her stomach, whispering lullabies into the silence, as though Arthur could hear her through the distance. Her eyes drifted closed, exhaustion finally pulling her under. In her dreams, Arthur appeared again, not as a vision of farewell, but standing tall and strong in a field of light. He reached out his hand, his voice calling her name across the distance. Grace stirred, murmuring softly in her sleep, her fingers curling into the sheets. She reached back towards the vision with all her might, whispering through the veil of dreams. I'm waiting, Arthur. Come back to me.